Right, let's motor on in and tackle the first discussion topic, not voted by you because we didn't give you a chance to vote for any discussion topics this week. We hope you won't mind. We hope you'll excuse us, given we're about to go off on holiday for a couple of weeks. But we thought it was about time that, as we're well into the month of August, we're in the final full month of the regular Speedway season, heading long fast towards the playoff shake-up, I should say. I thought we'd have a look first off at the Road Motor Oil Premiership, and we'll have a bit of a focus on that, and then in the next segment we will do likewise for the championship. So guys, let me just pull onto screen the current standings in the Premiership League table. And listen, we've just been talking to Jason Edwards, of course, and as we touched on with Jason, Ipswich sitting top of the league. They probably hold a little bit of a psychological advantage over Bellevue, having earned that draw and won the Golden Heat extra point at the NSS last week. But the top four in the Premiership are very much cemented, right? Mathematically there might be a chance that one of them could yet be caught, but let's just focus on reality and probability and form in Speedway. So there's no doubt in my head whatsoever that Kings Lynn, Oxford and Birmingham, their season is done in terms of league titles at least. Ipswich are, in fact, just looking at the league table, I said it earlier on, Ipswich are the only club in the Premiership who have yet to lose an aggregate bonus point. Sheffield and Leicester have lost 2 and Bellevue have lost 3 so far. So my first question to you, Simon, I'm going to bring in on this. So those aggregate bonus points, obviously they do influence the league standings over the course of a season, but by virtue of the fact that Ipswich have yet to lose one, Bellevue have lost 3 already, and Sheffield and who's the other one? Leicester have lost 2 apiece. What can you read into that, Simon? Does that suggest that Ipswich are absolutely the form team?
Oh yeah, it does. But at the end of the day, the 4 teams that have made the top 4 have done what you could class as stage 1, which is obviously it's only 7 in it. They've made the playoffs. Carl will tell you as an ex-team manager, and I've ridden with Carl. You make the playoffs. It's then you press the reset button. You go in again. Anything can happen over 2 legs. A lot of the teams, the riders are all doubling up. Obviously, injuries are part and parcel of it. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know which rider, if there is going to be, it could be, everybody's replaceable as such, but you can only use the riders from the teams that are not in the playoffs as guests. But, if, touch wood, it wouldn't. But say, like Dan Thompson, if anything happened to him, how can you replace him? Because he's by far been the best number 6 in that league this year. It caught Ipswich out last year, didn't it? With Doyley getting injured. So, yeah, I think Leicester are the big outsiders personally. The way Drew's going, if he can keep at it, and Max Frick seems to have it absolutely. He's been the best rider in the league this year. If they can just keep Dougie and Sam Masters, few retirements, keep him under Becker's average, so Frick can keep having an hour ride. I think they're very much dark underdogs. But then obviously Sheffield just made changes with Nick Morris coming in, so it's not over yet for sure. I think it will be an Ipswich-Leicester final, personally.
Ipswich-Leicester. So assuming that Ipswich do finish top, Simon, and then are drawn against 4th placed, so you must be suggesting that Sheffield are likely to be 4th, right? So it'll be Ipswich, Sheffield, Bellevue, Leicester in the semis.
Yeah, something like that. If they don't get drawn together in the semis, that'll be the final. That's what I think.
Carol,
it's tough, isn't it? Because you can look at these. I was going to say, you look at the aggregate bonus points, but Bellevue lost Brady for like 3 weeks, didn't they?
Yeah.
When he got injured in Prague. So, like I say, they've done stage 1, they're in the playoffs now, so it's a matter of, I don't know who Birmingham's last meeting is against at home. If it's one of them top 4, they might take Pity and let them win the top meeting so they don't meet someone else. You don't know, do you? Speedway's a funny old game.
Yes. Yeah, full of dilemma and jeopardy. Carol, I'm going to ask you to comment on something that Simon's mentioned actually. So, you know, the transfer window has now closed pre-playoffs, and Sheffield have rolled the dice. They've made a couple of changes. So they dropped Louis Kerr and Justin Sedgman and replaced them by Nick Morris, who's not ridden competitively for 2 years, and Jai Etheridge. And I know reading some forums, some comments on social media, that has unsettled some Sheffield supporters. They're a little bit unsure about that and see that as being a little bit risky. Any views on that, Carol?
It is risky considering, like you say, Nick's not really rode for a while, and to bring him back at this point of the season for them is, it could go either way, couldn't it? You know, he could be outstanding. He could come back in and want to prove a point. You know, or it could go horribly wrong for him. But yeah, it's a chance. It's a throw of the dice, and it's a massive gamble. But if it works, it's obviously a gamble that's going to pay off. You know, with Nick, we know what the Aussie boys are like. You know, they get around each other, they help each other out. They're quite tight. All them guys. So if he is struggling, we know full well that the likes of Jack and Chris will probably lend him an engine if he needs to. You know, anything like that. We know what they're like, and when you're in that position and you're and make the playoffs, you know, they get even closer, as do most teams. But yeah, it's a big gamble, huge gamble, but fair play to them for doing that. Obviously disappointing for for Louis and Sedgy, but what do you do? It's if they wasn't performing, and it's the last roll of the dice to make them changes, then yeah, it's unfortunate for them. But you're there to win league titles, and they feel that was what they needed to do to certainly push for the title. I don't think they're quite good enough this year, I'll be honest. Certainly, you know, with what Simon says, I think Leicester are very good at home. Yeah, they've had a few bad meetings, but I think they're not a bad side home and away, the same as Ipswich.
Simon, if just going back to the Sheffield team change, it's definitely a big call, right? And it's one of these potential hero situations where Damien Bates and Simon Stead will be called heroes if it all works positively for the Tigers. But you have seen Nick Morris at very close quarters in the past few nights, Simon, and you've seen nothing in Nick's performance to suggest that he's particularly rusty, did you?
Listen, Nick was never a bad rider before, and he was on the up. Obviously, we've all done silly things in life that we regret, and we're all, he did the crime, he's done the time, he's come back. And to be honest, the way I watched him last night flying around Berwick, he looked probably the best I've perhaps ever seen him ride. He was sharp out of the starts, he was smooth on the track, he wasn't doing this, he wasn't doing that. But also the benefit for, I believe, Sheffield will be he's doubling up. So he's got them double meetings. It's not like he's one a week or one every 2 weeks. So yeah, it's tough on Sedgy and it's tough on Louis. But I think what a lot of people forget is you got to think who they replaced, because between them they replaced Ty Wolfenden, who is like he's kind of unreplaceable, isn't he? With what happened to him, obviously, beginning of the season. So, yeah, they're both very good reserves, but perhaps not quite cut out enough to be in the main body. So when one would have a good meeting, the other one would perhaps struggle in the team. So, yeah, what they were bringing to the table probably wasn't what Wolfie would have scored himself, and you're still missing a rider then. Yeah. I can't remember. Oh, they had to get rid of Daniel Hume, didn't they?
Yes,
they might be a bit stronger now with Dry, because he's, if they draw Bellevue, they'll fancy their chances more because Dry used to ride there. So, and like I say, Nick's very good. He's a good rider. He's, whatever's gone on, and I think it's a good move for Sheffield, to be fair, and I like things like that because it shows the club want to win and it shows will and determination. And yeah, I mean, Berwick effectively, I know we're talking wrong league now, but Berwick could still make the playoffs in the Championship, like on the team they've got now. You know, they've gone out and, you know, grabbed the bull by the horns, and it's we can't swear, so it's like hit or miss, isn't it, sort of thing. So yeah.
So, Carol, just with your team manager's hat on, Carol, so if you were the team manager of any of those top four in the Premiership, at this stage of the season, you're less than, I'm just glancing at the league table, you're less than, half a dozen at most matches away from completing your regular season. So what's the key objective as far as you can control it, Carol? Obviously you're going to be looking to avoid injuries, that goes without saying, but in terms of performance level, form, just keeping winning, what is it that you would ideally want your team to keep doing?
I think at this stage of the season, depending on what position you're in, obviously you want to be winning every meeting, home and away. The objective would be, let's not just make the playoffs, let's go out and win every meeting, because you could be facing some of them boys in the playoffs. So you want to sort of lay a marker down to say, look, we're here and we mean business. We want to win the league. We want to win meetings. We want to take points off everyone, because we've always said Speedway, it's probably 85% in the mind of a Speedway rider to be the best Speedway rider. Now, if you can get into their heads by, running them close at home, if it's one of the title contenders. So next time, probably in the playoffs, it's like, well, we only beat them by 2 points, or they got a draw here from last heat decider or something like, it's in the back of their minds. If you go and get trounced 60-30 at one of their places, you're on the back foot rather than them. So, you want to perform to your high standards. You never ever want to take your foot off the gas, because that's when mistakes happen. That's when injuries happen. So you never want your riders to ease off, and you won't want that, certainly not going into the playoffs. It's the biggest time of the season for everyone. And, if I was in Ipswich position, I'd want to win that league now, outright, finish top of the table, and say we finished top of the table, we deserve to be there. And now it's up to the rest of you to challenge us. But we know what can happen in the playoffs. We've been there, and it hurts when you finish top of the table and a long way clear, and you lose out through injuries, like Simon states. You get an injury and it messes your whole season up.
Yeah. So you're looking for. I imagine you're looking for some statements. You're looking to continually put down markers, make statements, meeting after meeting, and keep your form running strongly into those playoffs. Simon, we've talked a lot about the top four clubs, and we'll talk more about them, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. What about the three clubs, Simon, that ain't going to feature in the shake-up this season? Kings Lynn, Birmingham, and Oxford Spires. What's going wrong in your views at those clubs, respectively, Simon?
How long we got?
Well, not too long.
Obviously, it's shame with Birmingham obviously packing up, but Speedway is a wonderful sport of the rumour mill on the grapevine and this and that, but some of the deals I've heard that some of them are getting, it's just like, and to be fair, Jason said something that was really very true in his interview. I ride for, I think I said this the other week when I did this, I ride for Ipswich the other month at Kings Lynn. And the team spirit was out of this world. Honestly, I even texted Richie the next day and said, look, mate, I didn't know the best name, I got 4 or something, but I said, mate, I must say, of all the teams I've ever ridden for, they were a team, they were a unit. Doyley obviously lives Norwich, not too far. He wasn't riding, he came and he was chucking spanners and filling the boys up. That was proper, there's just class from all of them as a club, and credit where it's due, whereas I think a lot of other clubs, with all due respect, they have these big number ones. They're not there to win leagues. They're not there to please fans. They're there for one reason, mate, and that's to fill their own pockets and clear off and get on a plane and go to the next meeting to do the same in the next country. And that's the difference between Championship and Premiership. But Ipswich all seem to be that one, you know. They've got two of the best speedway riders in the world in that team, in Emil and Doyley. And, you know, like I've always said, nobody's better than anyone. We are all humans. Just because we put a suit on, it changes nothing. But they all want to win. And that is the difference, I believe, of extra points on that league table. So yeah.
Simon, just to
you just got to do.
Just to interrupt briefly, is that easy to create that atmosphere and that positivity when you're top of the league and you're winning though? When you're no.
Oh, don't know, because never had that Scunthorpe, to be fair. But in the top league, them boys are there purely for money. Like, I don't care what they say. They want to ride the bikes. You know, all these keyboard warriors, as we go on about, they think they know this, they think they know that. Some boys have to ride over here, whether they want to or not, to maintain visas, to maintain work permits, to do this, to do that. What they're paid in England is loose change compared to what they're getting in Sweden and Poland. You know, so it's just, yeah, they want to do well, of course, because nobody gets on a bike to come last. But it's, honestly, the people outside of Speedway that think they know it all, they ain't got a clue what goes on behind the scenes. You know, Carl's been there, done it all, promoter, manager, etc. I've been around the sport long enough to know enough ins and outs, and it's crazy. But yeah, a lot of them are here for the right reasons. Some of them are here for the wrong reasons. And you know, obviously changing the subject a bit, but there's a big talk of one league next year. Well, I think you'll lose all the big boys, and you've got to give these boys, the promoters in the top league, the credit, because they might be paying good money for them, but they're bringing the big names back, and that's what it's lacked.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. Carol, again, just focusing on, same question, just focusing on those lower clubs, Oxford, Birmingham, Kings Lynn. Any observations about why the season has gone the way it has for them?
To be fair, I'm surprised with Kings Lynn, with the team that they put together. You know, knowing how knowing how we built our team at Peterborough, and Rob's gone down a similar route at Kings Lynn. You know, I expected them to be certainly in the top four, but obviously things have not gone their way, injuries and things like that, which, you know, we know hurts teams. But yeah, I think with Oxford, they had a good season last year, and it was a bit of a honeymoon period. I think the reality struck with them guys that it's difficult in the Premiership, certainly to maintain, you know, the form and the riders that they had there with costs. You know, it would have been expensive for them last year. Birmingham, I think, you know, you hear rumours, you know, about riders coming in and doing part of the season and you know, and then disappearing, and it was a deal that was on the table, and that's what kills British Speedway. And like Simon says there, you know, they're not here for British Speedway. They're not interested in British Speedway. They're here because their leagues that they were supposedly riding in or gone off to ride in hadn't started, and it was a bit of pocket money for them to get a bit of bike time that's competitive, get a bit of money in the bank, and that's all it was. That's all it's about with some of them. And you know, we don't want that in British Speedway. I look at the likes of, like Simon says, Emil and Doyley at Ipswich. They seem to be interested in British Speedway from what you see. You know, from looking from outside in, they're interested in British Speedway, you know. And somebody like Emil, if he wasn't interested, would he still be here now? I don't think so. You know, he'd certainly probably move clubs if somebody offered him a bit more. He's happy at Ipswich. Don't know why, because the track's awful, but you know, it obviously suits him, and he's happy there. So fair play to them for what they've done there, you know. But like I say, there's other top riders that are here just for the pay packet. and that's not fair on British Speedway, and certainly not fair on British supporters. But and it's certainly not fair on clubs, on promoters and team managers. It's hard. It's hard enough to get riders into the UK, and when you get top riders that you're paying a lot of money to that can't really be bothered, is even harder to take. And the supporters must be absolutely gutted at some of these clubs.
Not being rude, but Michael Jepsen-Jensen leaves Birmingham. Nothing against Barker, because you know what you're getting every race is, heart on his sleeve, chasing airbags. You don't know whether he's going to bin it, win it, go over the fence, through the fence, or take the checkered flag first. But that's what you want to see. But you get rid of a superstar as such, or supposed superstar in Jepsen-Jensen, and you have to replace him with Barker because there isn't any riders out there. That speaks volumes. And I've heard that Jepsen-Jensen was only here till he left, and that was it. And that's not fair on the fans, because he was a good thing for Birmingham. He was their best rider, really.
Yeah. So 360 Speed was a bit of a sobering review by Messrs Lambert and Johnson on all things Premiership. But listen, it's not even mid-August yet, so we will continue to keep a close eye on the Premiership shake-up as we head in towards the playoffs, and we'll do some predictions near the time about who's going to finish on top. But if you didn't like what we mentioned about your particular club, or you have any observations about the current form or potential form of certainly the top four as we head towards the playoffs, please don't hesitate to share it with us. Comment on any of the 360 Speedway social media output.